Ian Gordon here, providing a library evidence synthesis seminar for this particular course. Hopefully it will be informative as you meet the requirements for this particular course. Thanks to Professor Wade for allowing me to venture into your classroom. I'm a teaching and learning librarian. I help people in applied health sciences and the math and sciences as well, faculty, staff, and students. If you ever have a question or comment, always contact me. And how to contact me will be available at the end of this particular seminar. Here's an agenda, what we're going to talk about, 10 resources you should know about. We're going to talk about rapid reviews as a type of evidence synthesis. We'll go through the systematic reviews and evidence syntheses library research guide, the health sciences, the CHYS library guide. We're going to talk about scholarly database. There's lots of them. We're going to through an exercise of being a competent searcher and researcher, and we're going to conclude by saying and indicating where, how, and when to get help. Part of your course are 2 library modules. Hopefully you're working through those. They're doing okay. Reach out if you have a problem. You're doing an annotated bibliography in addition to a rapid review exercise and writing a term paper. So I can help with that, but more importantly, you have the instructions to do this. But here's a guide I've helped and shared with many students about guides of how to do an annotated bibliography and meet the requirements for this particular really interesting exercise. Looking for articles for your rapid review, complements looking for literature to be part of this annotated bibliography. If you go to the Brock Library homepage, click on Research Guides and go to the Health Sciences Guide. And if you click on the Additional Course Guides tab on the left, it'll bring up a page where I've put these materials. So there's my list of annotated bibliography resources. And also these slides and a video are archived here, and they'll be here all particular term. That paper, really important. It's a culminating exercise. I'll include tips of how to do this in addition to what the course has given to you as well. But here's the subject I'm going to use for the example that I'm going to use is ADHD associated with increased risk of obesity in children, somewhat related to your particular course. 10 things you should know about. The Ceterobib. There's to cite. I use it. Many people use it all the time. Bookmark it. Put it on your laptop or your workstation. Cetero. It's hard to think how you can't do this exercise without a citation management software system like Cetero, EndNote, Mendeley. We promote Cetero. Reach out if you think you need help. We'll talk about, and you should learn about rapid reviews, protocols, frameworks, and reporting guidelines. We won't go into detail here. Scholarly databases, including the different versions of Medline via Ovid, PubMed, and Web of Science Complete, when and how to use those. A MESH, or medical subject headings. How do they work? You'll always be looking at these medical subject headings, not only for this assignment, but for other assignments, and as you move on to a career in health sciences as well. We'll look at alternate scholarly databases. There's lots of them, like I said. I'm going to show you the Covenants database, which we subscribe to at Barak. It helps you with screening of your evidence synthesis papers. Just to show you how it works, we'll be documenting findings using PRISMA reporting guidelines and references. You should know about that, when, where, and how to get help. Can't emphasize that more. And then how to book a consultation if you want to meet with me, or a group of you wants to meet with me, or you just want to review things either in person or using Teams. So let's talk about evidence synthesis 101, rapid reviews. What are they and how do they work? Well, in your course outline, on the bottom it says the main goal of the course is to introduce students to a broad way of thinking about child health, integrating the biomedical model and the biopsychosocial model to critically evaluate current policies, perceptions of health and health services. Evidence synthesis, systematic scoping, rapid reviews, and the family of reviews is really essential to this part of research. What is evidence synthesis? I'm sure you're going to talk about this in class. It's a paradigm such that articles are synthesized to reduce the amount of bias, increase rigor, and more generalizable results about what's out there. How do they relate to policy? So it's a summary, it's a quality of evidence where you analyze and interpret independent research for a particular purpose. Always looking at, are you answering a particular research question? This is really essential and a catch-all to health sciences and CHYS-related research as well. Evidence-based practice is clinical, it's patients, it's research evidence, so it's part of a collection of resources you use to make policy, best practices, and to inform you of what's most appropriate for any particular situation. It's usually patient-focused, where you assess, you ask, you acquire, you appraise, and then you apply the research that you've got. Evidence synthesis, synthesizing evidence in order to make best decisions. There's lots of standard steps in evidence synthesis, stating the objectives of the research, eligibility, finding all eligible studies, which you'll be doing, screening for inclusion and exclusion, extracting data, which won't be part of the rapid review, appraising the final set of studies, which you'll be doing, applying statistical analysis is more part of systematic reviews and meta-analysis, and preparing a structured report. So you use elements of these sorts of things as part of evidence synthesis, which is a common research study and publication design. There's lots of different types of evidence synthesis. Systematic reviews, mixed methods tools, multi-purpose tools. They come in different flavors and colors, and sometimes they overlap each other. But it's important to note that each of these has a specific purpose. They're no less, no more important. Each particular type of evidence synthesis review has its own priority and has its own purpose. We'll be looking at rapid reviews. Rapid reviews are grouped within this family due to the abbreviated approach to this type of methodology. There's different types of rapid reviews, and you can look up those as well. So why are they more rapid? Very narrow research question, and you probably have that. Less sophisticated search strategies. You're looking for everything, but not all everything. You search fewer resources rather than searching 8 databases. You may search 3 of the most appropriate ones. Simple descriptive quality analysis. Rapid meaning it's usually used for a rapid or current topic. COVID was a classic example. A study within 2 months about research dealing with COVID, drug designs, current appraisals. Rapid is its form of evidence synthesis, and that's what you're leaning on for this particular assignment. Anytime you're doing evidence synthesis work, including a rapid review, you're always looking back and looking forward. Looking back and asking yourself, am I answering the research question that I stated? Knowing that it may be tweaked, knowing that it may be adjusted, it may be refined and narrowly focused. But as you move forward and complete a rapid review using the structure, the protocols, the frameworks, and the guidelines, and the best practices of doing this research, always ask yourself, am I answering my research question? An attempt as part of evidence synthesis, you're trying to increase the validity of your results, meaning it's replicable. People who read your research or your study say that it works, it's appropriate, I can follow it. You're trying to limiting the amount of bias that you introduce at every step of the way, whether it's the databases you pick, the research question, your search design, your strategies, your inclusion, exclusion. There's lots of biases introduced. You're trying to minimize the amount of bias to increase the validity of your results. So when people read your research finding, they go, I get this, I understand this, and it makes sense. For rapid review resources, the Prisma checklists, and other short review descriptions I find important. So I've shared them here, but they're also part of that Health Sciences additional course guides. They're all listed here. Check them out. I'll give you a 2 or 3 minute review of what are rapid reviews and how are they structured for this particular assignment. Let's move on. So top 10 resources you should know about rapid reviews. Let's look at the Systematic Reviews Evidence Synthesis Library Research Guide. We depend on this for a lot. It's in the library under the Research Support top tab. On the left-hand side, Systematic Reviews and Evidence Synthesis. And there's a guide within this. So Systematic Reviews, Scoping Reviews, and Other Evidence Synthesis. So click on this tab and it takes you to this page. And on the left are chapters or sections of tab headings of how to actually move through evidence synthesis protocols. How to start, what are they, protocols, develop a research strategy, you should review that one. Move down to screening results, you'll have to do that and decide on how that works. And reporting results. They're just short, introductory, and they point to resources that may be helpful as well. Health Sciences and Child and Youth Studies Library Research Guides. These are important. If you go to the Health Sciences Guide with that URL and you click on the Articles tab, and it lists a number of databases. Most of them are peer-reviewed. There's different versions and softwares you can use for different databases, but for undergraduate, this is a quick, best bet number of databases you can use, realizing that health science is interdisciplinary. There's more than one paradigm or perspective to search for literature, but there's great overlap between all these databases, between psych, social, health, and child studies as well. If you go to the Library Research Guide for Child and Youth Studies, under the articles tabs, they have a different set of databases. Not that we want to complicate things, but different databases operate differently depending on the subject nature. Again, there's lots of overlap. There's education, sociology, psychology here that pertains to CHYS. So if you culminate a title in these database research guides for health sciences and child and youth studies, these are databases. So which one do you search as part of your study? Do you search them all? Do you search a few of them? Understanding you're doing a rapid review evidence synthesis project. Google Scholar is the only open database, which is in green, meaning you can access it, but we link to the holdings in our library as well. So which ones do you choose and how do you choose them? Here's my particular topic. It is ADHD associated with increased risk of obesity in children. Understanding the paradigm of a rapid review, a few databases, a quick and easy search strategy that's comprehensive. Which databases do I pick? Well, I have to think about it. There's lots of them, so let's go through some of those. Here's a lot of databases you may be familiar with. Academic Search Complete, the green ones are open ones, the black ones are proprietary databases, which you access through the proxy, letters, numbers, your password system, like you get into Brightspace. Google Scholar, Medline. So it's hard to know which one, because increasingly there's more than less databases. It would be nice if there was only one database to use. That's not the case. We're moving towards that, but there's lots of databases you may be familiar with and use for this assignment. First of all, I always test, try, push, pull. I go to Google, I typed in attention deficit disorder in quotation marks to look up the phrase, obese with the shift 8 asterisk to pick up any word with the root, or child and that wildcarding shift 8 to get children, children's, and just kind of browse through what things. Google is sometimes a good search engine to test your results to see what's out there. You can also use the advanced Google search function. Here's the URL. I use it all the time. I put in a word or a phrase, and then limit it at the bottom to terms appearing usually in the title of the page. And I look for file types. I usually look for PDFs, meaning they're usually articles, reports, summaries. PDFs are more scholarly or they're more institutional rather than web pages as well. Here's what I got. Articles, maybe of interest, reports. They're of interest. Again, there's no one way, and there's the art of online searching involves doing some research before you actually develop a research strategy. Go to Google Scholar. If you go to the Brock Library and you click on databases, or there's a link there for Google Scholar, use that proxy access and search for things. So I search for ADHD, obesity, and rooted children with the shift 8 asterisk to get children or children's. And if you move through a Brock proxy access, it ranks and sorts citations for articles. And on the right-hand side, it gives the best ability to find it in our library as well. So move through the Brock proxy server using Google Scholar. It kind of gives me a sense of what's out there, what words are used, what abbreviations are used, how much literature is out there as I define a research strategy. Do your homework first. So here's the databases for health sciences, for child and youth studies, and then for evidence synthesis. There's a number of databases that you can use. Web of Science Complete, Medline, we have different versions of it, Embase, which is the European equivalent of Medline, Google Scholar, Cochrane, which is an evidence synthesis database, OSF Preprints, Prospero. Scopus is what other institutions may have, and it's equivalent to Web of Science Complete. We don't have it in our library, but it's good to know about it as well. Most evidence synthesis projects always search Web of Science Complete, always search Scopus, but for your purposes, Web of Science Complete will do. So lots of choices here as well. So here's my topic. First, I look for an evidence synthesis resource on your research topic or question. So is there an evidence synthesis report out there? Is there a rapid review done in the last 5 years on your particular research questions? It's always good to look at it and see it. So I looked at the databases. I went to Web of Science Complete, and I searched an attention deficit or my terms. I ANDed a research concept, obesity. Then I ANDed any words that help describe those evidence synthesis tools, systematic or scoping or rapid or meta-analysis or as a word or as a phrase as well. I found a number. I found 92 evidence synthesis tools when I limited to articles that were review articles that were things that were in English. And I browsed them and I found one of them, and then you can look them up as well. On this particular rapid review, it has a title and author. It was published in a particular journal. It has an abstract, tells you how many times it was cited within this database, and how many references are at. But every article has a digital object identifier. It's a number that starts with 10 dot. And I grabbed that and I put it in ZeteroBib. You put it in, and I clicked on APA, and here's my citation. A quick and dirty tool that works really well. You'll use ZeteroBib from now on. I also included a citation management system, so I clicked on the pencil, and I created a folder for it, and it downloaded the metadata for that particular citation included in the abstract. Citation management is really important in health sciences, but only for this assignment as well. So ZeteroBib and Zotero can be helpful tools. I also put it in Google Scholar. I guess I'm kind of lazy, and since there's only one of these numbers relating to an article, it found it, and on the right-hand side, it pulled up our holdings. There's 2 places to look for it. I clicked on one, and it brought me the article, and I downloaded it and added it. Yes, as you get through your particular exercise, you have to read the article. It's a scholarly peer-reviewed, looks, tastes, feels, smells peer-reviewed. I think it is. Ask if you need help with that. Abstract, introduction. Methods and materials, it tells you what they did, what databases they searched, what guidelines they used. There's a section on inclusion and exclusion criteria, how they filtered down their results. They put in a Prisma flowchart, which is interesting, what they used in decisions were made, a diagrammatical part of their research. Then they put a table in, as you will do, of all the articles you looked at, and why they're important to the study, and how they report to the outcomes of the findings you're writing up in your particular paper. And at the end of it, there's a discussion and conclusions, which are really interesting because you're trying to identify emergent themes, or why is this important? What is the emphasis of your research? Supplementary materials where I can find out everything. Then at the bottom, references. So you're building on a body of knowledge. This research builds and cites these things as part of the rapid review, but as part of the commentary for this particular article as well. And there's my ZeteroBib citation. Looks pretty good. So whenever I do my research question or yours, I look for an evidence synthesis resource on your research question or topic. If there's one, just kind of look at it, see what it does, how is it framed, how do they present their data. Second, then you start to look for scholarly peer resources on your research question or topic. So let's do that now. Scholarly databases, there's lots of them, which ones to pick. And being a competent searcher and researcher. What scholarly databases best mirror your research question? What is your research question? Are you set on it? Test, try. Did you use Google, Advanced Google, Google Scholar to see what was out there? It's important to kind of come to this with an open mind. So here's my research question. There's the Health Sciences CHYS and Evidence Synthesis databases I could use. So I searched the literature. I picked these 4 databases: Embase, Web of Science Core Collection, Web of Science Medline, and Sinhal, which is the nursing. Because I thought I'm looking at a physiological paper. I'm not looking at a social or an educational paper. I'm taking that bent. So I've picked 4 databases. I would suggest you pick at least 2. And probably pick 3. Web of Science Core Collection, which you should use, and you should use Medline. You can pick an alternate database from this list as well. Searching is a nonlinear and potentially iterative process, because you may go, as I did with this research topic, I went so far, I need to change or adjust my research question. I tested this database, there was nothing in it, so I came back and I took that off my list. I used a version of Medline that worked best with my research question, so even I made decisions along the way, knowing it's an iterative process. You have a research question, you search, you have terms and concepts, you have a strategy, you translate it, and then you come back and try to do it again to hopefully do it well. When you frame your research questions, I've done, there's many frameworks that you could use. There's as many as there are numbers. PICO is what most people use in health sciences. SPICE is a good one you may use. Or you just may want to look at the concepts from your research question and identify them, then transliterate them into a search strategy as well to become a good or effective research strategy. PICO looks at population of your problem, your intervention, exposure, comparison, or outcome. Go through your research questions, see if you can answer these questions and frame your research question using these frameworks. SPICE is a bit differently. I don't use it too often, but the SPICE is another way of framing your research question. Different frameworks work maybe better for different research questions. Let's look at search concepts. What are the main search concepts, population issue of interest for your rapid review? Ask yourself this and see if you can write down this on a piece of paper as well. So I looked at this and I looked at ADHD, obesity, and children. I'm not looking at the word risk, though it's important. I'm not looking at the word increased or associated. Those aren't really concepts. So I've identified 3, knowing there may be 5 or 6 concepts. Those are my 3 main concepts I want to look at for my rapid review. Hopefully you can do the same thing. I looked at them and I said, I'm looking at synonyms, so ADHD or attention deficit disorder, obesity or obese or body weight. There's many terms that relate to this. English isn't perfect, and there's phrases and terms that are synonyms you may want to use, like your population, child or children or boy or girls. What words do you use? Then I looked at my filters. I said, I want to go use English language resources. 2000 is as far back as I want to go, and I can defend that in my limitations. I'm looking at scholarly peer-reviewed articles. I'm not looking at thesis, conference reports, posters. I could, but I defend that, and I'm looking for humans, usually in health sciences research. I'm not looking at animal research studies. And I've decided I want to look at these databases, these important things, and I'm going to use ZeteroBib and Zetero along the way. So I think I'm going to test try push pulleys, but I think I'm ready to go. Anytime you kind of stuck for words, I use word hippo, maybe you will as well. Obesity, there's different words you may want to use since English isn't perfect. And the perfect example I often use is a teenager, adolescent, or high school student. Each database uses different terms to describe this. You want to know what the appropriate search term is, but it doesn't stop you from using your natural language as well. The mesh headings, which are listed here, are really important for Medline. Obesity is defined. It's given a date when it was first used, and it's given a structure that's a type of being overweight. It's a type of body weight or overnutrition. So it helps you determine, because when you search the database, you got to think like the database and search that you don't get too many results, but you don't miss things of peripheral interest. That's the art of online searching. Child is a mesh heading, so they define children or child from 6 to 12. Do you agree with that? Will that work for you? There's different age groups you can use, but every database defines population differently. So you've got to know what is it your population you're studying, you're limiting, you're filtering, and how do they define that within the particular database you're looking at. Attention deficit with hyperactivity. Wow. Didn't know that it was used for all these other terms and abbreviations. But in Medline, this is an appropriate term, but I could use other terms as well. So this is the controlled language that I want to use, not to miss anything. Here's a way of expressing it, my research question and my concepts. I'm looking for everything on obesity, ADHD in children, but I could also search on obesity in children, obesity and ADHD, and children and ADHD. So there's actually 4 searches here. You're looking for everything that combines all these 3 concepts. I looked at my natural language and I put in all these synonyms and I ordered them. Then I'm going to and the concepts together, knowing I'm using these terms and frames of references. So here's an example of an Embase search using the Ovid software. Medline uses this software as well if you want to use it. And it's a more structured search where you put in a search strategy and you get results and you combine, so you limit your research and then you filter it by usually human, language, date, and other term concepts. I came up with 77 articles in Embase. Is that too many, too few, just right? Well, again, you need to be satisfied that you feel appropriate, that you use the appropriate search strategy, thought like the database, and you're happy with that. And you grab these 77 citations. Here they're all listed in chronological or books of relevance order, but I'm going to grab them all and I'll put them and send them over to Zetero. You can send them to a spreadsheet, a Word document, but you need to look at them all because you need to evaluate each one of these as well. Here's Sino, my search. It uses EBSCOhost as a search interface. It uses a different frame of reference. It has a different thesaurus or Sinhal subject headings. So I learned obesity and I found the appropriate term. I just looked at child and children anywhere, whether it was a subject term or not. They're limited by age, source type, articles, language, and date, going back to how far I want to go back. I found 150 results. Is that too many, too few? I highlighted them all. It's hard to know. You can evaluate your research, but again, evidence synthesis, you take all these results. I created a tab in Zotero, and I sent them all this way. So all the citations, all 150, went to a tab marked for Sinhal under HLSC 3P80. So it's a way of tracking all my citations. I went to Web of Science, and I wanted to use Web of Science Complete, which includes Web of Science Medline and Web of Science Core collection, but I found out that I need to search Medline by itself. So I used the appropriate topic, which includes titles, abstracts, mesh headings, and author keywords. And I looked through and I abbreviated and used the appropriate terms. And I searched and I found 1,014. You can go, wow, is that too many, too few? Well, it's up to you to defend it and to add to it or to modify it. I limited by articles that were in English over this date range, and I looked at them, I marked them all, and I put them into Zotero. There they all are there. So I've got my file folders of all my citations ready to be used. Web of Science is a core collection. It uses the Web of Science same interface, so it looks the same as the Medline database search, but it's searching a bigger and interdisciplinary database. Web of Science is science, social sciences, medicine, it's all areas. It's a great database to search. And I said, let's look for these words in the titles of articles, obesity and related terms in the titles of articles, but child to children anywhere in any particular part of the citation. And searched and found 93. Limited them by language, document type articles, and I grabbed them all and I put them into Zotero. So pretty easy to do. So I've finished my searching. I don't think I need to search any more databases. But you may search PsycInfo, realizing, thinking like the database, they have their own thesaurus. ProQuest Sociology, an important database, especially from a CHYS perspective. They have their own thesaurus, define terms and populations, and diseases and conditions differently. So you have to know what those are. Education Source, an education perspective, has its own thesaurus. Do they use child? Do they use children? Do they use student? What words do they use to describe a population and a condition as well? Every time you do a research, the art of online search should necessitate you to have a critical focus, defining your research question or topic, identifying key concepts and keywords, building your search, run your search, evaluate your search. Is it working, not working, and redefining it as well. It took me 3 cracks to get my search strategy down where I felt comfortable. It may take you fewer or more. That's where we can maybe help you to redefine your research questions so you don't waste your time, but you get all the essence of this exercise and you meet the criteria for this particular task. So here we go. I found this many articles in each one of these databases, 1,306. Wow, that's a lot. But it's not a lot when you do evidence synthesis work. I took these and I have to discern what my evidence synthesis screening criteria is. And you'll have to do this. Why do I include certain articles and not others? So the inclusion criteria is usually related to your filters you use for the databases. I only want scholarly articles. If it's not a scholarly article, I get rid of it. Anything before 2000, I get rid of it. If it's not in English, it's a bias I'm introducing, I get rid of it. And if it's not dealing with my children or my population, I get rid of it. And again, humans, I don't want animal researchers as well. Exclusion is really where you'll do most of your heavy lifting. I'm looking for a particular study design, a random trial. So if it's not a random trial, I can't look at it. I'm looking at a particular outcome or health indicator, and since this particular exercise or task for this rapid review has a physiological basis, I'm not looking at anything else other than dealing with physiology, however I define that. Types of data you're looking for, I'm using BMI index, and so if it doesn't have it or uses another one, I consider it, but I'm really excluding it. Or if it has a wrong population, meaning if a study talks about children, infants, and adolescents, that's important and maybe of interest, but I'm not looking at the adolescents, so I exclude that paper from my research. I want to show you Covenants, which is a database. You won't need to use this, but it's really used for rapid research and evidence synthesis, scoping, and systematic reviews. So what you do is you upload all your citations, you start a new review, you identify what it is. It's a Brock University study. And what it does is I uploaded all the citations, imported them here from my Zotero account. So I found 1,070 citations. 150 of these were duplicates that were deduped from this study. And what it does is it goes through each study, and if you screen them as a rapid review, you go yes, no, does it meet my criteria, inclusion? or do I exclude it? Does it meet the exclusion criteria? It has to meet any one of the inclusion, but if it meets any one of the exclusion criteria, I just say no. So it's a systematic way of going through it once, looking at the citations and abstracts, or looking at every article as well. You'll have to decide how to use this. This is a covenant use. It's not required for this example in this course, but it is important. So I went through the exercise, I got 1,070. Wow, that's a lot of citations to go through. What is my final set going to be? It's an off-mass question. How many articles am I going to include as my study design? Something you'll have to develop. We can help you with this, but it's a part of the research paradigm. A flow chart helps you decide where these are going and how many you get and why they're excluded. So that's diagrammatically reports your findings. The PRISMA checklists are important, and they've been modified here. If you want to look at these, you don't do everything in them, but it's a checklist of what you do and don't use. Further, how you talk about bias, the study characteristics, so look at these with more detail. And finally, how do you discuss what's important, not important, as you do a rapid review example for this particular assignment. Really important that you look at the reporting and guidelines as you kind of sit down and go, so what did I find? This is an example of a study that you have to put your final citations and then why they're important, how they contribute. And you always have to ask your question, what bias was introduced to your rapid review? It's a part of the paper, what the limitations of your review are. It can be anything from databases to decisions to language to research defined, inclusion, exclusion. Something you'll have to kind of sit down and work through. Hopefully you can help with your colleagues or with the professor or the TA in this course. Hopefully you sit down and have this done and complete. You'll feel confident that you use your computer to do this and you did it with minimal effort, pain, and time. Here's some tips. Working with students in this program for several years. Read through the evidence synthesis library guides, not only for this, but for other core course requirements. Experimental testing possible databases, which are strategies, so we use Google, Advanced Google, Google Scholar, and just kind of what was out there. Think like the data which you're searching, so search the databases. Specifically, like using mesh terms and Medline. And look for a YouTube video database or processor or software that may help you. How do you use this? There's a YouTube video for everything out there. You no need to use Covenant software, but I'm glad to show you how it works for deduping and screening. I can't emphasize this more. Start early. Searching and evaluating resources in an iterative process. You will go and try 2 or 3 things. You'll start, you'll modify your research question as you move through, you change your databases, your screening criteria. It's an iterative process. Invest in using Zotero Bib and Zotero Citation Software Management System. If you don't use those now, reach out, we can help. Follow course assignment guidelines and instructions. So do what you're supposed to do. Don't do more than what you're supposed to do. It's a long, heavy road. I know you can do it. Some digital resources works best on versus off campus, the databases. So think about that when you actually sit down and do your searches or execute your research strategies. Lean on colleagues when appropriate. And evidence synthesis research is a team sport. Your professor, your TA, your colleagues in the library can help you with that. And book a consultation if you want to help with how do I, or someone said to do this, I'm not sure, or I'm just having trouble with this. Always, we're out here to help. So where, how, and when to get help. We're wrapping this up. Evidence synthesis research guide, really important. Read the whole thing. The subject disciplinary research guides, they're really important because they help frame database you should use, and the health sciences guide has those slides or additional things for annotated bibliographies and rapid reviews as well. Email the library during the work week. Someone's always here to respond to you. The chat button is really neat. It's on every library page. Click on it. It's a quick and dirty. How do I? Why isn't this working? Can you help me with this? Someone's there from an institution across Ontario, including someone from Brock University. Or if you want to book a consultation, think about it. If you do, you click on it, click on my name, or you can use anyone that's listed here. Click on the date that's working, and then click on the time. And it'll ask you, so why would you like to book a research consultation? So you're saying, I'm dealing with this particular course, I'd like help with this particular item. And then also indicate whether you'd like to meet by Teams, meaning we can do that. But I prefer that we do this in person. And one or two of you can come, or three of you. You can bring a lot of people if you want. But it works best working in my office. But I would confirm why we're meeting, when we're meeting, and how we're meeting as well as part of this engagement. So there you go. Teaching and Learning Librarian. Email me. And if you email me, put Brock or this course in the subject line so it doesn't go to my junk mail. But I usually respond to my mail immediately, or if not, within the next day, if I think I can help you by email as well. So good luck for this assignment. I know it's tricky. It's challenging, but it's really resourceful, because when you graduate and you be part of a research team or go on to do further studies, you will be the person, your colleagues, practitioners, academics will look to you to say that, could you find these things? Could you do this? Can you find the best evidence for this particular practice? It's an invaluable skill. I just thank the professor for putting this together and allowing me into your course.